We have a chashuv guest here today, Zachariah. Money.
I asked my 4-year-old what was his favorite part on Friday night. He was there to eat at friends, and then we stopped by here, and we stopped by sometime. So his favorite part was seeing the Rebbe, singing.
So cute.
The shita that you explained Thursday night, is that it's very reminiscent of successful relationships, about control.
About?
Rather safer about control. Successful relationships. It's like the whole of the soul of the sefer is not being a control freak.
About?
Not being a control freak. So I'm just wondering if did he influence your thinking there, or has it?
In which? Where does he have this? Which book does he have this?
Successful Relationships.
That's what it's called?
It came out about 10 years ago.
I don't remember this. He just asked me last week. He asked me if I read his most recent book.
SDS is called?
Huh?
I heard there's a book SDS that came out of also against
Do you remember? My brother, she came out with a book very recently, and he asked me if I saw it. I don't remember what it was. Do you remember the name of it?
Twerski on something.
No, not
No. A book on. Look it up.
Not Kvura?
No,
It was one like a month ago, right?
Huh?
It was like a month ago, right?
He just came out with something. Right?
Kvura was last year for his 80th, but now...
Addictive thinking.
That's old.
Life's too short. When do good things start? This is going to be a while. Let's see if the
He said it's very recent.
Wikipedia.
search tools last 30 days. Yeah, came out how much last month?
I don't know. He said very, very.
Successful relationships it's about
Jewish
control
lights.
dynamics.
That's the. I mean, then that was the means by which the Nachash was able to get Adam and Chava to eat from the thing. Be'isam kilikim. He said that you'll be able to create your own world. You'll be able to make your own rules. You'll be in control.
And
That's very seductive. Very. Eliezer has the keys, and Leventhal has the keys. Does Shmuel have the keys?
Stalin, got one. Can't go to the key.
Huh?
Someone go to the key. You got it.
You said you wanted to suggest that the shore was
Control.
controlled. So it means that it's your own choice.
Oh, there you go. That means that what?
In other words, that's your own Tiddish, or you didn't see it anywhere else?
No, I didn't say that. It's also my own weakness. It's also my own weakness. Control. All right, so with this we're into Miketz. So we're waiting for today's dumb question. Yes, sir.
So all these parshas have tons of dreams. Yaakov dreams, Yosef dreams, Aaron dreams, etc. So in the Gemara, and obviously in kind of Chumash, dreams had significance. And I think nowadays the prevalent assumption is that like the Gemara says also, that we see Yehuray Lev, like whatever we think about during the day, so that's Yet we also have, where we say the Ribono Shel Olam, Ani Shalach, Mosai Shalach, during Duchnim, we have, every Siddur has Seder HaTavos Cholom. So what's the perspective that we should have on our dreams? Is it something which has significance, or is it just kind of our own subconscious fears or hopes?
So apparently only
Can you repeat the question?
the question was about the significance of dreams today. The Parshas of the week, we see that dreams are very significant. Yosef's dreams, Yaakov's dream, Paro's dreams, the dreams of the Saramashkim, the Saroifim. Whereas, and in the Gemara you also see that there's a significance attached to dreams and how to. There's a whole thing about what the dreams mean, the peace line of dreams, and how you should, if you want to have a peace line of dream, you should go to a good friend who will be Paisal L'Tayv. And then the Gemara says that most dreams are Dvarim B'Teilim. And the attitude today is that if you have a dream that troubles you, so then you should try to have in mind by Birkas Kohanim. Good morning. So apparently the only kind of dream which you should take seriously is one which number one, when you wake up, you remember it and it troubles you. In other words, you're really kind of roiling about it. So that kind of dream, you should try to have someone. All right, you're supposed to have three people. There's a nusach and a siddur to have peace and chalamis. And there's what's your name?
Ryan.
Huh?
Ryan.
Ryan? Ryan's, as Ryan said, on Shabbos, if you have that kind of a dream, you're permitted to and like this, it's also to fast on Shabbos. But if you have that kind of a dream, that it's really deeply distressing you, so you're permitted to fast on Shabbos. So apparently, the only kind of dream that you need today to take seriously is one which really is very, you're anguishing about it. That's the only thing that's given any credibility in halacha. Otherwise, 99% of the dream should be dismissed, really.
As a psychologist, we follow that. And I found in my own experience in life, I call them epic dreams. I've had dreams that seem to, I call some of the dreams I have epic dreams. They seem to organize so much of my life and give me a derek, or help me understand what's transpired and where I'm at this place right now. I find personally, and I'm not trying to argue with anything in the Gemara, but personally I found dreams to be very, very, not every dream. I dream every night under Mishigas. But some of the dreams, 2-3 times a year, I thank Hashem for them. They seem to be so.
Okay, so I'm
The Marsha and Brachas in the beginning, by Ishim Sakal Samala. By his Basper, the three kufas at night.
by the beginning, yeah.
Huh?
Right?
So he says that Ishim Sakal Samala, the Chazal understood that means also Nevuah. He says that somebody who has Midas Emes could have Nevuah in that part of the night. Because the interference dies down, all the noise from the earlier. So there's a bechin of nevuah in a dream, potentially, if a person is
I have a fair number of people who come to me either before or after the davening, telling me they had a bad dream, and they want a pischain. So I'm usually pretty good at taking a bad dream and making it sound good. It says by dreams, that everything goes after the pischain. So if you tell you go, that's why you should go to a good friend. The Gemara says that, I think it was Chizkiyahu, I'm trying to remember which melech it was, he wanted to know what was going to be the fate of Klal Yisrael. So he sent a shliach to go to Huldah Hanaviyah. So the Gemara asks, why did he send to Huldah? He should have sent to Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah was the dominant Navi at the time. Huldah Hanaviyah, she was a woman, but she wasn't the dominant Navi. So the Gemara says, because women are softer, so he understood that there was likely to be a kind of a harsh nevuah, so he wanted that Huldah he wanted to hear the nevuah through Huldah. So the question that the Mefarshim asked, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So what difference does it make if Yirmiyah says it or if Huldah says it? And the fact is that if there's going to be a Churban, if Klal Yisrael is going to go into Golus, it's going to. So they say that the bottom line is that even though a nevuah is a nevuah, but it does pass through the Navi. And if the Navi is someone who has a very severe sort of a very disciplined type of nature, so it'll have a sharp edge, because he's the filter. Whereas if it goes through someone who is big rachmoni, they can take something off of the sharpness of it. So he wanted it to, he understood that whatever was going to happen was going to happen, but he wanted it to go through the filter of Huldah, because she was a woman and she might take some of the edge off of and that's true, and some extent why you have to go to a good friend. If you have a dream that's troubling you, go to a good friend, because the pischain is helach hacharapeh. It goes after how the person interprets the dream.
Why should that be?
What?
Why should the interpretation, pischain be someone's interpretation have such power?
You're asking about like a pischain cholim. Why should and the Gemara has all kinds of cases about. I think the Gemara over there in like Nun Ches or something in Brachos has all kinds of cases where I think it was Rava used to interpret dreams very, very generously, very charitably. And then this person who would come to Rava regularly came once to Rava, and he wasn't there, and his Talmidim interpreted the dream very, very harshly, and those things, their interpretation came to pass, and Rava was really troubled by the fact that they had done that. So the question is, why is that? there's a very nice commentary by it. Roa Kain, this is by the tzaras of bigodim, the kinds of leprous afflictions on clothes. Roa Kain nachher hu kabis es hanega, v'hinei lehofach hanega es einoi, the nega did not change its presentation. Vanega lefoso, and the nega did not spread, nonetheless tomehu, because it came back. So the Mephoshim say as follows. They say that that the hashpah that comes to this world is an energy that comes with it's a statement. In other words, it's a divine statement which begins. Its source is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is a Tov. So the Rebbeinu Shalom is mashpia Tov to this world, and that Tov is an expression of Hashem's intention to bring bracha to the world. And it has a certain configuration. That configuration are letters. So the bracha which Hashem sends is a bracha which has letters. Unfortunately, when an individual is unworthy and it does things which in some way distort or twist his neshama in such a way that he can't receive that bracha. So the individual has a way of changing. In other words, this bracha that comes to him with these letters, the person changes the letters so that they no longer are letters of bracha, because he has corrupted the conduit, so it no longer is a bracha. So they say that the Rebbeinu Shalom is mashpia onik. That's a pleasure. Like we have onik Shabbos, he's mashpia onik.
Could be nega.
So what happens when the person, let's say he is guilty of lashon hara, or he is guilty of kina or sina, whatever are the many things that cause tzara. So what happens is that onig, same letters get twisted. Instead of onig, it becomes nega. Same letters, the onig becomes nega. So the hope is that this person will do tshuva. So if there's, let's say he's the nega is on his clothes, so they come to the Kohen says, yep, this is a nega, here's what we got to do, we got to rip it off the beged. But then, so they tear it out, and then they wash it, and after the nega is washed and the nega doesn't change, so it says, lehafach hanega es einoi, the ayin of nega does not change its place. It's supposed to be hafach, it's supposed to go from the end of the word, from nega, it's supposed to go to the beginning of the word. So Eino here means that the eye, it doesn't change its color, but the mitzvah said nega es Eino, the ayin of the word nega doesn't change its place. It's still at the end of the word. So it's still at the end of the word. So it's tummy, and then you gotta rip up the whole thing. So. In a certain sense, to the extent that a dream presents itself to a person, and so, but that if it's a nuah, it originates in letters. So if we go to a person who is a good friend and he can rearrange the letters so that it doesn't find its way into our world. So if somebody interprets it in a very negative way, so it's now gone from the world of thought and imagination. Now it's come into the world when we've spoken it. In other words, we've now given actual shape to the letters of that cholim. So to some extent, we've kind of brought it into this world in a negative way. Whereas if we rearrange those letters by interpreting it in a positive way, then it's come into the world. We bring it into the world in a positive way. So
we even see that in the way in our Hanhagas, why we should go to a friend, because we want them to interpret it as an ayin tov. Because it has a koyach. It has a koyach.
That's right.
To create the ayin in a tov way. Yeah.
very good.
Is that like similar to tefillah? When you articulate
Right.
way.
Right.
Most of our dreams are just from our thoughts of during the day, working on ourselves and having more positive thoughts. Doesn't that itself can possibly also reinterpret it in another way?
Yeah, it would be a way of our influencing the dreams that we have later on.
Right.
A similar transformation of the letters is described in this form of the word daveh to the word hod,
Right.
in connection with Chanukah.
Right. Though that would be worry or some sort of sadness, and hod is beauty and glory.
So if someone has the skill to interpret a dream psychologically, are they doing a disservice by not putting a positive spin on it? Giving an insight as to where it comes from psychologically as opposed to...
So I think there's a difference between interpreting a dream as an indication of something that's forthcoming, or interpreting a dream and helping a person understand what the symbols in his dream represent. So those are two different things. One, in a certain sense, is predictive of the future, whereas one is dealing with what the causes are in the past. If in psychoanalysis, the psychiatrist would be using the symbols of the dream to tell this person what past influences are shaping his current problems, or what he's currently stressing on. Whereas the question of interpreting a dream positively or negatively is telling a person this is what's going to happen to you.
I'm saying that sometimes one could do either. If you go with the psychoanalytic interpretation, are you blocking the possibility of being poiter at the table?
Maybe. I don't know if they're mutually exclusive. There's another interesting thing about dreams, and that is that the dreams are consistent with the person, so that in this week's parsha, we have Paro having his dreams, and as Sarah Mashkim says, "Chatoy ani mazka yoyim," I was in. So Paro it went to all of his all of his advisors, his wise men, and nobody could interpret the dream to his satisfaction. Nothing really clicked with him. So Sarah Mashkim comes up and says, "Well, I know somebody who knows how to interpret dreams." So the question is, Sarah Mashkim, why don't you listen to the dream, then go to Yosef yourself, tell him the dream, and then come back, and you'll get all the credit. So why did Sarah Mashkim do this, what apparently seems to be a rather unselfish thing, or altruistic, and he goes, and he says, you got to go to this. So what they say is as follows, that had the Sarah Mashkim gone to Yosef and told him, I had this dream with this. So Yosef would have interpreted the dream as the dream of a commoner. The dream of a commoner is not the same as the dream of a king. A commoner dreams for himself. A king dreams for his kingdom. So the Sarah Mashkim had enough sense to know that if he would go and tell Yosef that he had this dream, that the interpretation would not be valid for a Paro. So he had no choice. He had to tell Paro, there's somebody who knows how to interpret dreams, because the dream needed to be interpreted for a king. And it turned out that was true, that Paro wasn't dreaming for himself. When his Chachamim were interpreting, they said to him, you're going to have 7 daughters, and 7 daughters are going to die, and 7 daughters are him. So they gave him all kinds of things which were personal. And it didn't register, because they were personal. They were interpreting him for himself as an individual. Yosef understood that the Paro was dreaming the dreams of a king, and he interpreted it as the question that they ask is, after interpreting the dream, Yosef gave him advice. So everybody asked the question. The Paro didn't ask him for advice. He just asked him for the interpretation. It was somewhat of a chutzpah on his part. He gives the interpretation, then he proceeds to tell Paro what to do. So where does that come from? So I saw one very insightful explanation. He said that, it says over here as follows, that he had this dream, and then it says, Vayikatz Paro, and Paro woke up, Vayishon, he went and he fell asleep again, Vayachlim Shenis, he had another dream. So, and then at the end, Vayikatz Paro, Hinech Halayim. So this I don't know what it is. It says this particular commentary says that this thing that it says after the first dream, Vayikatz Paro, was also a dream. He dreamed that he woke up, and he dreamed that he fell asleep again. And at the end of it, it says Vayikatz Paro, Hinech Halayim. The whole thing was one cholam. So Yosef had to interpret not only what the Sheva Shibolim and the Sheva Pares meant, but he had to interpret the fact that he dreamed that he woke up. And the interpretation of waking up is, here's what you got to do. So that was Yosef's Yosef's advice was not a chutzpah. Yosef was interpreting the fact that Pare dreamed that he woke up and he fell asleep again.
Why couldn't Sarah Mashkim unto Yosef and not that it was my dream? Say it's Paro's dream. So Yosef would be interpreting Paro's dream and then go back and tell Paro.
You'd say to him, take me to Paro. I mean, he understood that Yosef wasn't gonna let him get away with that.
You get tibuch.
What?
Did he get tibuch?
All right.
What does that mean?
You get any credit, like you get like
Percentage.
Agency.
you get a percentage of the thing. Shadchan money. What?
Why not? Before, yes, he did.
Yeah, he probably got some credit.
It took 2 years till he thought of Yosef.
What?
It took 2 years until he thought of Yosef. By the time he came out, it took 2 years. Chazal said Yosef was punished for doing the job of fasting.
It says at the end of the Sedra over here, that's redundant, right? And the Sarah Mashkim did not remember Yosef, and he forgot him. If he didn't remember him, then he forgot him. So why does they have to say Yishkacheo? They tell the following story that the Baal Shem HaKadosh had a son, Rabbi Hirsch, who was an Odom Gadol. Actually, for the first year, this Tzvi Hirsch was Rebbe. He led the following. At the end of the first year, by the Yotzeit, Rabbi Hirsch said that, talking about dreams, he said his father came to him in a dream, and he told him that the legitimate heir to the leadership was the Magid of Mizrich, and that he should give over the leadership to him. And he got up from where he was sitting at the head of the table, took off his cloak, put it on the Magid, and the Magid became. Anyway, so this Hirsch went someplace. I'm thinking he went to Constantinople. He went to some other community where he was a very obscure figure, and he didn't tell anybody who he was, and his avodah took place in a context of great destitution. In one case, it was so bad that there was nothing in the house to eat, and he was overcome with some bitterness. So after the davening in the shul, he got up and he said, "How is it that there is a son of the holy Baal Shem Tov in your midst, and nobody gives a darn?" I mean, how do you let somebody like die of hunger? So everybody was immediately struck by the fact that they hadn't really paid much attention to this, and they got together and they made a collection that was going to be a regular collection, and that was an ongoing one. They were going to see to it that he would be cared for by COVID. Rabbi Hirsch, after his public declaration, realized that he wasn't feeling good about it, and he said to himself, how did I let go of my bitachon? I went ahead now and I made this announcement. Now they're going to take care of me, and where was my bitachon? So he was mispalel that people should forget what he did, and his tefillos were accepted, and they forgot, and the whole collection thing somehow never came to pass. So, on this pasuk, the Medrash says that this is an expression about so, and everybody knows that this caused him another 2 years of staying in prison. So how is this, and maybe not that pasuk, like some, huh? Right. What's the pasuk? With some, right? Something that he didn't put his faith in the Mitzri, but here he did put his faith in the Mitzri. So they say that what happened with Yosef is the story with Rav Hash is that he asked the Saramashkim to remember him, and after he asked him to remember him, he said to himself, "I put my faith in a person." So he was mispalo that he should forget him. He said, that's the pshat is you know why? Because he prayed that he should forget him.
Who says that?
And that's what I saw someplace that. I don't remember Miketz very well. I just,
It's not really talking about Nevuah, by Hadyotis. The Chazal talk about ESP. Do we have a position on it?
What's ESP for the Leibman?
Extrasensory perception. People have experiences which are...
There are people who are gifted that way. There are people who have this ESP today. There are people who have this.
Is it a get of Ruach HaKodesh, or is it...
No, I don't know. It's just they're not 100% on, but there are some people today who are very ESP.
The Talmud Rebbe has a beautiful piece where he talks in connection with this week's parsha, when he says Vayar Yaakov Yeshiesh Shever b'Mitzrayim. That's sort of a moment of ESP, and then a few psukim later, where it's it says Vayered Achi Yosef, that his brothers went down, and he says that they began to have hirurim of being brothers from the sort of shever, from that sort of awakening of hope from Mitzrayim. Well, kind of explains it telepathically in that way.
Telepathy, that's...
Yeah.
For the Yaakov and Esav. I would say for how
That what?
You said 2 weeks ago how Yaakov and Esav, how Yaakov knew it was time to come back because when Esav looked at him like a brother, so Yaakov felt that he was going to.
Right.
Same thing. They weren't together, but he knew once Esav said he thought, so Yaakov changed the way he felt also.
So my question is this derech hateva or l'mala min hateva?
I think that part of it is teva, and in certain instances it's the minimum of teva. But I think in the most cases, because we find this phenomenon is not exclusively Jewish. There is this. There are people who have this gift who are not Jewish.
Could be kochas atum also.
Could be. So is that lo mazah? There's no way to really explain it up Yitava. They've done all kinds of interesting experiments.
They don't come up with anything.
Huh?
They can't.
No, well, they can't. They've demonstrated there is such a thing as extrasensory perception, but they don't know how it works. They have no way of explaining why it works.
I had a teacher, one of my teachers of psychotherapy, who was asked this question, if he believed in extrasensory perception, and he said, I think we've only barely begun to scratch the surface of what constitutes sensory perception. That we don't...
That's what I was going to say. We don't understand everything about the mind.
Right, yeah.
Very nice.
I mean, in the context of what Rabbi has been teaching in the Nefesh HaChaim, you would understand it a lot better, but he talks about the neshama, mi'ala adam.
We have the Gemara, Yulei Chozer, Mazda Chozer, like, the person has information that comes to him and he doesn't know how or what, but people do have that. They have sometimes, they have a feeling that something's
So
going
that
on.
that mashah in brachas indicates there's this kasher going on all the time. It's just that then it's overwhelmed by the noise. That so you can't really discern the signal. But there's a kasher there.
Is there any aspect of it around today? You hear some stories of some tzaddikim, Baba Sharabi, other tzaddikim, they have these perceptions. Is the Guru or Kodesh, is any of that around still?
Heavy duty. Lots of stories. Lots of stories. There was a Mishloach who came to, he was in the Midwest, he was in Chicago, he was in Milwaukee. So he told her a very interesting story. His brother was involved in Kiruv, and he was a Makarov, a young boy from a Shomer Atzair kibbutz, where the people were rabidly secular, anti-religious. Anyway, so the parents were very, very upset with this Makarov. When I tell you I don't remember the names, this is going to become something that you'll hear from me a lot because I don't remember. Anyway, so they were very upset with him, and they wouldn't help out at all. So this Makarov took this boy into his home, and he paid for his schar limud, and this youngster grew up and was a ben Torah, and eventually did a shidduch. And this Makarov was the one who collecting money for all of the chasana things, the clothes for the chasana and for the dira of the chasana. So he was doing all of these things, and the person who's telling the story is telling this story that this happened. His brother was the Makarov in the story. So he came to the wedding, and at the wedding, this Makarov noticed an elderly man sitting off to the side. Didn't know who he was or how he belonged to the wedding party or as a guest to the wedding. So he went over to the house and he said to him, "Who is that man?" He said to him, "That's my father." So he walked over and he sat down next to him and he said to him, they're dancing. This is your son's wedding, so I know you're upset with me and you're upset with your son, and he's religious and he's this and that and next thing, but it's his son's wedding. Why don't you join in the dancing? So he said, I don't have anything to do with this wedding. So he was overcome with pity for him. So he just had this thing, and he pulls out his wallet and he says, "You know what?" He said, "I've been carrying around for many years." He said, "I have $1 that I received from the Lubavitcher Rebbe many years ago. I'd like you to have it. It'll be good luck for you." the man paled as though he were going to pass out. And this Makarov said to him, I'm sorry, can I get you a glass of water? He said, no, just wait. He said, it'll take me a few seconds and I'll. Anyway, he said to him, I want to tell you a story. He said, when I was a young man, he said, I went with a group of boys from Shomer Tzur. We went on a tour. We went over through Europe and we came to America. He said, when we were in America, we decided we're going to take in a lot of different things. So we decided we're going to go to Lubavitch and we're going to get dollars. So he said, so we stood in line and my friends went by and he gave each one $1. And when I came, he said to me, are you Gemalit? Did you have a bris? So I said to him, no. So he said to me, I can't give you $1. He said, when you'll have a bris, I'll give you $1. So he said, last week my son came to me and he said to me, Abba, I'm not asking anything, but you don't have to give $1 to the wedding. I don't need anything from you. I have one request. Could you go through a bris milah before you come to my wedding? So he said, I decided I was going to do that. So he said, the reason that I'm not getting up and dancing is because I'm in too much pain. He said, when you took out that $1 to give me he said, the whole thing came back to me. He said, I'll give you $1 when you'll have a bris.
Great.
Huh?
So Rabbi, can I ask a question? I don't mean to politicize it, but just make it contemporary. A lot of that time people try and get to Gedolim with whatever chashuv shala they have. And some of them believe the Gedolim have Ruach HaKodesh. I mean, what's our take on this? When we go and ask a shala, we just accept it as...
All right, so the question was, what's our today when we go, and especially when we have major issues, and we go for counsel to great people in our generation. So, what's our take? Do we believe that they have Ruach HaKodesh? I suppose it's possible that may be the case, but I think that more legitimately, when we go to a great person, and again, depending on how we go to him. I mean, if we go to him just soliciting an opinion, that's what we're going to get, his opinion. But if we go to him and our attitude is that a great person. Here's the thing: we believe that Klal Yisrael is an intact gestalt. So we all belong to one organic entity, and that entity has a head, not literally, figuratively, has a head, a brain, eyes, ears, arms, legs, and each one of us occupies some part of that gestalt. So some of us are the ones who support Klal Yisrael, and certainly we're the legs that Klal Yisrael stands on, and there are Einei Ha'ida, they're the eyes of our community, and they're the Chachmei Ha'ida. So when we go, in a certain sense, what we're doing is we're saying the wisdom comes to us through these people. So it's not an issue of Ruach HaKodesh. It's just that if we really believe that we're all one, and that the leaders of the generation are the Einei Ha'ida or the Chachmei Ha'ida, so then that hashpoah, that counsel will come to us through that medium. On the other hand, if we don't really have that attitude, then it's not going to happen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Welcome. Thank you.